Hey, what's up, Speedy's Garage gang? Welcome back to the Speedy's Garage YouTube channel. You'll kind of have to excuse the mess in the shop today. I want to show y'all something because I know some of you have picked one of these up. This tire rack that you guys see in the shop that I always keep my tires and wheels on, make sure you pay really close attention to where these pucks end up. So mine's been up for about 5 years, and I noticed the other day when I was getting the tires down that this left puck was actually sinking into the sheetrock. And what had happened is the stud is like right here, and I thought the puck was on it, but it was actually just a little bit to the right, and it was starting to deform the sheetrock. Now, it might not have ever been a problem, but the last thing I want to have happen is for all these tires to come falling off of that rack and land on Go Man Go over here. So I had to become Mr. Sheetrock Repair Guy. Got all that spackled, and I'm going to actually show you the solution I came up with. I'm going to actually put a board. It's a 1x6x6, which will fit just about perfect. I've already painted it to match the wall, so that's going to be my fix. I'm going to put it right behind where those pucks will land, and that problem will be solved. But that's not what today's video is about. I just wanted to tell you guys that in case you have one of those at home, so you can be, super careful. It looked to me like those pucks were both on studs, but one of them wasn't. Today I'm going to be back on Project 4Runner again. And I have to be sort of strategic in this part of the world in terms of when I want to paint something, because it gets really hot and humid here in the summer and paint just doesn't do well. So I usually have towards the end of March where the weather and the temperature and the humidity's in the right place until about the end of April when I can paint. And then I'm really stuck on anything like that until probably the end of September, until about the end of October. And after that, it's too cold, or in between those other times, it's either too cold or the humidity is way too high. So today I'm going to pull the tow hitch off of old Project 4Runner and refurbish it and clean it up. I noticed a couple of years ago it was starting to rust. You can buy a new one for about 200 bucks, so not the end of the world, but for 20 bucks in paint and probably an hour of my time, I think I can fix the one I've got. It's a little bit tricky to get off, so I've picked out some tools. Those bolts can rust in there, and I'm hoping I get lucky and mine will come out. I've been lucky so far on all the projects I've been doing on that truck, and I'll link to the top of the playlist. I've been sort of doing like a restoration on it. I'm hoping my luck continues today and those bolts come out nice and easy. If they do, this should be a pretty straightforward project. So a couple of 17mm sockets, what I'm going to start using. Might need a mallet to persuade. One of them is sort of up close to the exhaust, so I'm going to have to figure that out. This is a short 17mm, which I know will fit in there, but I don't know if I'm going to have enough leverage to break the bolt loose. I might have to whack it a couple of times. I want to use a breaker bar and loosen them by hand first, rather than just going after it with an impact. If any of them are going to give me trouble, I want to have the opportunity to try to save the bolt and not cause myself a lot of extra work having to cut something. If I have to, I will, but I want to avoid it if I can. And then once I get them all loose, I'll just hit them with an impact just to buzz them out. So I'm going to show you what I'm working with. So here it is. It's not in terrible shape, but you can sort of see it's starting to rust and come through here. And you want to catch something like this early. And I think if I catch it early, I can just buzz that down with an angle grinder or something, some sandpaper on a die grinder, and hit it with some good primer and paint. I'm going to start by hitting all these bolts with some penetrating oil to hopefully give me a little bit better chance of success on these bolts. Hit the inside and the outside, actually. Let that soak for a little while. Go ahead and do the other side, and go ahead and shot some on these little 8mm that hold the electrical connection. It's been on here 21 years, so this should go a long way to helping those bolts come out. Yeah, that penetrating oil made a big difference, I think. Hopefully I have as much luck on the bigger ones. If you've been watching the channel for a while, I always like to tackle the hard stuff first. I figure if I can get that out of the way while I'm fresh, the rest of the project should be pretty straightforward. This bolt unfortunately just lines up right here with this exhaust, so I'm gonna have to go after it with one of these, and hopefully I can get enough leverage to break it loose. That's on there pretty tight. Yep, I'll have to figure something else out on that one. There we go. Got him out. So I had to disconnect the exhaust, sort of move it out of the way like you saw. The rest should be pretty easy. I took all the bolts out except for one in the middle on each side, and I'm going to try to support that thing with some jack stands as I take the last bolts out, but we'll see how that goes. I got pretty lucky, but like I said, this truck's pretty rust free, but here, if I can get this out, is what can make this project a little interesting. So that bracket sits in the frame, and you can see it's got nuts welded on it. So sometimes these will break loose and there's no way to get to them. So you have to end up chopping the bolt and then fish this out of here. I doubt you can even get these anymore. I'm gonna look because I'd rather have new ones, but if not, I will clean these up and put some rust prevention on them. But luckily mine are still in pretty good shape. There's one. I'll show you the other one. So here's the driver's side. They were obviously that kind of gold anodized metal you see a lot on these trucks at one point. Not too bad for 21 years old, actually. You know, I think while I've come this far, I'm going to go ahead and drop the spare tire as well. Maybe clean up behind it. Been a while since I've had that down. Need this little gizmo from spare tire kit. Hopefully still have that. Might be able to do it with a long 3/8 extension, I'm not sure, but there's a hole back here if you didn't know. And this just slides in there, and it'll make up with a port on the back. There's what it looks like. Honestly, not near as bad as I was expecting. You guys up north are probably freaking out because it doesn't have much rust on it, really any, a little bit of surface. This part of the world, we get snow, not a ton, and I've always made it a habit if I drove the truck on salty roads after snow or something like that, as soon as it was cleared up, I went straight to the car wash and sprayed the undercarriage. Looks like that's paying off. I am going to probably, while I got the spare tire and everything out of here, hit all this stuff with a lick of primer and paint just so that I know it's good, and I will put a little bit of grease. I've greased the spare tire carrier in the past. I'll do that again, probably clean this guy up. I wonder if I can probably get that off of there so I can take it, work on it at the workbench. It's held on with 4 12mm bolts. Here it is removed so I can get it all cleaned up. And I gotta say, I've used quite a bit of this type of product, but this liquid wrench has probably worked the best out of any that I've used. This is not sponsored. I bought this with my own money, but I would like for it to be. So liquid wrench, give me a shout. All right, I set up a tent because I don't like to do this stuff in the sun. It tends to dry too quick. I've got all the parts laid out. I'm gonna hit them with some degreaser and the pressure washer, get them super clean. And I think the pressure washer will also help me with some of this flake and paint on the hitch. I gotta get all that off, get all this cleaned up so that I can get it ready for paint. So now, just get to it. Next up, I'm going to start cleaning these up, all the parts, even the hitch, the wheel, these brackets. I'm going to start using my die grinder with a kind of a flapper disc on it. I got some various tools, some 60 grit, wire wheel. Don't forget your eye protection, and basically just grind on them until they're about as clean as I can get them. Got everything prepped. I did wipe it down really good with acetone and a lint-free cloth. And I sort of built this little jig to hold the hitch. That's about the best way I could think to get most bang for a buck painting wise. I didn't want to take a chance on painting one side, having to let that dry, flip it over, paint the other side, and end up messing something up. So hopefully that works out. And on the spare tire carrier, I actually used some of this on it. It was a little more rusty. Did get all the loose pieces off and then sprayed it down with some of that rust reformer, and as you can see it did turn black, so that means it's ready to be painted. And this is the stuff I'm going to use. Automotive primer on the hitch. This stuff acts as a primer, so this is already good to go. Obviously I've taped up the cable and any other things I didn't want to get paint on. And then I've had pretty good luck with this stuff, and I'm going to use satin as the finish because I think that most closely matches the frame. And they come out with this new nozzle, so I'm kind of curious how that does. You can basically set 5 different settings now. You got regular, high output, low output, and then a couple of vertical. So it gives you some options there. So I'm gonna get started on the hitch with the primer. Two coats of primer. I'm gonna let that set up and dry about 15 minutes. I'm gonna hit with the top coat. And while that primer's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and hit the tire carrier with some of the satin black. I'm gonna try setting 3 because these are smaller parts. It's been about 15 minutes. I'm ready to top coat. I decided to set up a table. It's not very windy today, but I want to be a little more careful with the top coat than I was with the primer. So I'm going to use that just to block any little bit of wind that might come along. And here is what the tire carrier parts look like. That satin looks really good. And for this, I think I'm going to try setting 4, which is a vertical fan. Let's see how that does. Well, there's finished product. A couple of coats of primer, about 3 coats of paint. Is it show car quality? Nope, but it's a trailer hitch after all. And this was really about rust prevention just as much as it was making it look better. So hopefully I'll get another 15 years, 20 years out of that. And this too. So now I'm just gonna let them set up, and I'm gonna let them cure a couple of days. And I've got some other projects planned for the truck, so I'm probably gonna wait before I even reinstall this stuff. If you've been following along, there are the skid plates from last time. I did those semi-gloss because the semi-gloss seemed to more match the factory finish. And then here's the spare. I went ahead and took care of it too. So now it's all good to go. And I needed to order, hopefully you can see that, some new trailer hitch mounting bolts because these were smoked. This is supposed to have a washer that moves, and it is corroded and welded itself to the actual bolt. And a lot of the bolt has actually rotted away. I got lucky, none of these broke. Feel bad for you guys that live in a rust belt. And like I said, I think I'm gonna wait before I reinstall that stuff because I got the spare tire out of the way, I got the trailer hitch out of the way, and that gives me a lot of access to the frame in the back and all the suspension parts in the chassis. I think what I'm gonna do is go ahead and pull the front and rear bumpers. I noticed there's some rust building up on the back side, so I'm gonna take care of that. And then I wanna do that same process that I did to these the spare tire, the trailer hitch and all that. I wanted that same process to the actual frame itself and the chassis, make it all look good as new underneath there. And any little rusty spots I see, I'm going to treat them so that I don't have any future problems. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you did. Be sure to check back because we got several more restoration projects for Project 4Runner here. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedies_garage, as well as the website, www.speediesgarage.net, and hopefully I'll see you out there.